Welcome to my first ever live YouTube on the spot. So I teach live YouTube classes every Thursday, and today there was an issue. So this is my very first, let me just do a live class. So I want to say not scheduled yet, kind of scheduled, and didn't really happen. So today I want to do a short, sweet, strong practice focusing on the hips. And this will be recorded so you could watch this at your leisure. Yoga therapy for osteoporosis, strong hips is the focus. This will be a shorter practice, and therefore we can go a little more intensely on the hips and in the holding aspects of the postures. And I think that that's really important, that we understand that we're putting out our energy when we show up to do our practice. So depending on where you are in terms of energy when you show up, are you fatigued? Have you eaten? What is your focus and your intention? So our intention today will be stronger hips. We'll do longer holds and less postures. And so then we'll be able to show up and do that. And anytime you can practice yoga, even if you do one posture a day, the studies are starting to show that they say 150 minutes of exercise a week is the best and the optimal for healthy aging. Yet they're also showing studies that even 2 minutes is beneficial. So anything you can do matters. And if you get caught up with, I have to do an hour practice, it has to be an hour and 15-minute practice or something, sometimes that makes things too challenging. So today we're going to do a shorter, stronger practice. Let's see how you feel after you give this much energy in the shorter time frame and see how this works for you. For today's practice, I will use a wall, and if you don't have a wall, a chair or a sofa or something to lean on or lean up against may be beneficial for you. And we'll need a block, a strap, and a blanket. Putting those off to the side. We're going to begin with a little bit of a chest opener to kind of get the body ready. I'm going to use what I have here. So I'm going to use the blanket behind my spine, and I'm going to fold it right underneath the heart area where the bra line would be. The bigger this fold is, the more intense the opening is. So it may look like it's a little, but when we're starting to manipulate this part of the spine, which is the least flexible part of the spine, it can actually feel very intense. So choose, depending on what your level of flexibility is or how your posture is, making sure you don't have a lot of rounding in your posture. So that'll determine how thick you make this blanket. The other thing to take note of with osteoporosis is do not lose this safe spinal space. So do not crunch your body, do not fold in the front. I'm going to come down onto this prop, a little beginning opener here, taking the arms overhead, bringing your heart onto the blanket, and keep your knees bent, especially if you're going to go pretty big with this opening. Lift your head, lengthen your neck, tip of the nose straight up towards the sky, arms are to the side. Take your arms pretty high, and then let's do a little for the hips while we're here. So doing a little bit of side to side with the knees, the soles of the feet are on the ground. Now, if you have low back issues, or if you already feel an intensity in the low back with this manipulation behind your thoracic spine, then you don't need to add the knee movement. But the knee movement will start to bring a little bit of lubrication and stretching into the middle part of the body. And you want to make sure you're protecting your lumbar spine when you do this. So either lower body movement or none, depending on what's going on for you today. Closing your mouth, breathing in and out through your nose. And then come into a fully stretched position if you can. So these are all suggestions. Maybe you try to do some of these and you're not able to, it doesn't feel right for your body. If you close your eyes, you'll go to a place of feel. Then bring your arms pretty high, pretty wide. Feel that stretch in the chest, in the shoulders, where the arms attach to your body. Let the head roll side to side to start warming up the upper back and neck. Doing what feels appropriate to you. And then bring your hands to clasp behind your head. Elbows are out to the side. Try to push your elbows towards the ground. Take one more breath. And then bring your knees into a bent position. Bring yourself onto the side. Just a short warm up for the spine, stretching the front of the spine. And then use the pushing muscles to bring yourself up. Take your blanket. Let's warm up the front body, back body with a total body movement. So come onto your blanket. Take your hands pretty wide. And then bring your pelvis forward. Squeeze your tushy because that'll help to minimize that discomfort in the low back. And then exhale to bring your tushy up. Maybe you could bring your forehead to the ground. And then maybe you could bring your pelvis to the ground. So whatever range of motion you have here in your hips is really determined by your ability, by what's going on in your body. So you may be here and here, rolling in the shoulder, rolling in the hip. Keep your head lifted. If you're able to go a little bigger and to bring your pelvis closer to the ground, head up and bring your forehead to the ground. Whatever range of motion you do, you're in your hips, you're in your shoulders, creating lubrication in those areas. And then bring yourself back to center. Let's come all the way up, beginning with stronger hips, being on your hips. So in this position, we're in our hip joint. So take your hands down alongside your body, reach down, reach up, turn your hands down, lengthen the back of your neck, tuck your chin towards your chest. Inhale up and exhale down. So warming up the spine, warming up the upper body. Keep one hand down, one hand up. And if your shoulders are not healthy enough to raise the arm above your head, you could reach the elbow up. We're bending our spine, stretching the side of our body. Motion is lotion. And then bring yourself back to center. Take your hands, shake your hands. So let's come into the first posture. We're going to come into plank. And plank actually strengthens your hips. The front of your hips strengthens the whole front of the body. Really great for core, for trunk stability muscles, and great for the front of the hip. When I had my hip replacement and I had to strengthen my body again, I had a really hard time doing plank. And it was very apparent to me how much emphasis there is in the plank posture in the front of your hip. So whether you choose to do the forearm variation or you do the straight arm variation or you have your knees and shins on the ground, whatever it is you do whatever works for you. You're strengthening your body. You have 800 muscles. Do whatever it is you can. So ideally, you would have your hands right underneath your shoulders, which might be a little closer together than you're used to. So see if that works for you. If not, go a little wider, maybe a little farther forward. Bring one foot back and then the other, coming into plank. Now you can take your feet a little farther apart if that makes it easier for you. Then push through your heels to get your weight to be distributed back in your body and in the front body. Look down at your fingers. Push your fingers into the floor a lot, not just the heel of the hand. Try to push the point where the fingers attach to your palm into the floor. And then try to slide your hand strongly back towards your feet. Feel how that starts to activate those deep core muscles. Bring your awareness to your feet, all 5 toes on both feet. Press into the ground, press through your heels. Now press your feet into the floor and try to slide them up towards your hands. Push your hands away from the floor, push your feet away from the floor. Bring your awareness to the part of your body where your pubic bone and your lower ribs, your core. and try to draw the pubic bone up towards lower ribs. Close your mouth, breathe through your nose. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself down, take a break. That's a minute in plank. Close your eyes, feel the heart rate accelerate, slow down the pace of your breath. And then open your eyes. So that's the front of the body, front of the hips. Let's work on the side of the hips. So the lower body pushing away from the ground is what really strengthens the side hip joint and the muscles along your spine. We're going to do side plank, pretty challenging posture to do. So doing this near a wall definitely makes it easier. You could come into the modification. The modification for today, if you're going to do that, would be to have your lower body on the ground and to lift up and away from the ground with your lower body. So that would be a modification, or coming down here and lifting your body up away from the ground. So whatever you prefer to do, or you could come into the full version. So you would start from a plank position, and then you lift your pelvis up to roll onto your side. Come onto the pinky toe edge of your foot and really push away from the floor. So lifting the pelvis away from the floor or pushing away from the floor to lift the pelvis is what we're going for here. Make sure you're not sagging in your pelvis. Push your fingertips into the floor, push your hand into the floor, and then bring your awareness to your foot. The whole pinky toe edge is on the ground, pushing away to lift the pelvis up towards the sky. Reach tall with your hand, and then your chest is pointing forward, your hips are pointing forward. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself out. So that's a really challenging posture, the most challenging one that I do. And so I usually hold that for about 30 seconds. Let's go to the other side. Modifying in whatever way you need to modify if that's something you need to do. Take your feet back. You lift your pelvis up to roll onto the outside edge of your foot. And then you start to work on that alignment. Push your fingertips into the floor. Push the place where your fingertips attach to your palms. Push away. Heart is forward. Bring your awareness to your feet. Really push the side of the foot into the floor to lift your pelvis even an inch higher. Feel that pelvis lifted. Long spine. Spine is forward. Pelvis is forward. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself out. Coming to a rest position to catch your breath after the side plank. Mouth is closed. Breathe down to your pelvis. Breathe down to the floor. Take one more breath. And then open your eyes. Front plank for your front body, for your hips. Side plank for the side of your body to strengthen the side of the body. Let's come up and do some standing postures, some weight-bearing postures. So they talk about weight-bearing for stronger bones. Our body weight is available to us all the time. It is the perfect weight to apply pressure into your joints, into your muscles, into your bones. And especially when you start to move your limbs away from your body in the way that we do with the standing part of the practice. So let's take a foot forward, flip your back toes under, and then slowly bring yourself up. Push away from the floor to come forward, and then prepare your space to do the standing practice. So move your blanket off to the side. Get a chair if you need a chair. A block can be helpful as well. So let's take the block. Let's continue with the side strengthening we just did in the side plank. Let's go into balancing half moon, which is another lateral or side body strengthener. The wall really helps with this one. And it's a good thing to practice here a while so you can start to perfect this posture and the strength in your body. So the way that we do this, if you needed to have a chair, you could have a chair there depending on the flexibility that exists for you in your legs. So let's take the foot, face the foot towards the block. And then my body is really close. My hip is actually touching the wall when I do this. And then I'm going to bend in that standing leg. You could actually have that standing leg bent or straight. And then you want your toes to point forward, your hips to point forward, and your heart to point forward in this balancing half moon. You want to make sure you're really lifting that lifted leg, strengthening the middle glute muscle and some of the side body muscles. Long waist here. Don't get short in your waist. You want to have a long waist, lifted leg. Arm up towards the sky, heart forward, hips are forward. Really active in that lifted leg. Balancing half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. If your head is not comfortable looking forward, you could turn your head down towards the ground. Finding for you what works. Make the posture work in your body. Really try to get those hips forward. If you are against the wall, push your arm into the wall. Push the foot into the wall and really spiral your body forward. Now we're balancing on the side of that standing leg hip joint, creating more forces at the top of the femur bone in a way that you usually don't stand, right? So we're weight bearing in our hip joint, femur bone, muscles that mobilize and stabilize that bone. So getting stronger hips here in this Ardha Chandrasana. Lengthen your spine, take one more breath. To come out, you want to make sure you dismount with a nice, healthy spinal movement. So bend your leg, roll forward in your hip joint, keep your spine long, keep the bend in your hips when you move, and then bring your head up, come up slowly to allow the calibration of your blood to your head from the position it was just in. So for fall prevention, the way we move, the speed at which we move plays a role in the how well our blood calibrates from one position to the next. Putting the block on the floor, we're going to go to the other side, starting with the hip up against the wall. You're going to bend into that standing leg, loading that standing leg. Bring your arm or your hand forward on the block or the chair, and from here, bring your leg up. Once you come up, you want to work on turning your body forward. So my buttocks are on the wall, trying to get both buttocks up against the wall. That's the goal here if you're using the wall. Make sure that top tushy cheek is not moving away from the wall. Push the top tushy cheek to the wall. Keep the top leg lifted. Push the top leg into the wall, that'll help. And then the arm that's reaching up, really reach up. And then reach long in your body. So you feel a stretch here in your torso from that bringing your body forward, and then you have that compressive force in the top of the leg you're standing on, in the leg bone itself, in the pelvis, pulling, pushing, creating bone building stimulation. Long torso. Take one more breath. To come out, you bend the standing leg, you roll forward in that hip joint, keep your head lifted, bending at the hips, not at the spine to dismount, moving through the joints in the way that you do. You want to move slowly to make sure that you are safely moving in all those areas in your joints in ways that we normally don't do. Let's do the mountain posture, which is a great place to catch your breath and to realign your body in that nice aligned position that's important to create the proper osteogenic loading that we do when we practice yoga therapy for osteoporosis to stimulate bone growth, muscle growth. Reach down with your hands, back with your hands. Push your feet into the floor. So push the 5 toes, the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot. Push the top thighs back. Squeeze the buttocks, pull the tailbone down towards the ground. So you actually correct the lower pelvis, which corrects the lower spine. Hands are back. Imagine you are a tube of toothpaste and all the toothpaste is below the ribs in your belly. Start to squeeze the toothpaste up, up, up underneath your rib cage. Feel yourself getting taller. Push your head back, align your chin to the ground. For those that have pretty strong balance, try seeing if you could close one eye and then the other, or try to close both eyes. If that's appropriate for you, if you have a lot of balance issues, then maybe closing the eyes is not appropriate. But if you're able to close the eyes, take away the visual, see if you can create that stability in the mountain with that joint alignment, and see if that's something that's appropriate for you. Take one more breath. And then open your eyes. Let's move into triangle posture. Triangle posture is going to create compressive force in your hip. It's also going to pull on the muscles that attach to the pelvis. The more you pull on your pelvis here safely and in control, the more range of motion you create in your muscles and your joints, then the lower you lower your fracture risk if you slip, trip, stumble, or fall when you're off your mat. So this is increasing joint range of motion, flexibility in the joint, and it's creating bone and muscle building stimulation. So have your block if you're going to use your block, the wall if you're going to use your wall, or the chair here. Take your legs really wide. Keep your legs straight as you move your toes away, move your back heel away. Take your back hand on your thigh, and then take your front hand on your thigh. Push down to get tall, and then flip your back hand up, the palm is up. Exhale. Rip the floor apart with your feet. So feel yourself ripping your floor apart and feel the arches lifting away from the ground. Don't let your tushy go back behind you. We're going to the side here, not forward with the torso. So as you inhale, slide your front hand down the leg. Don't let your tushy go back and your torso go forward. Stay in between two panes of glass as your front straight arm slides down the front straight leg, down as deep as your body will go, as deep as your hip will bend. If you're able to go down to the chair or the block, push away. So that you push away, you bend your hip as much as you can, push your tushy forward, make sure that your spine is coming right out of your pelvis and your head is right on top of your spine. The head and pelvis are in the same place with the spine between them. You don't have the chest forward and the tushy back. That's if you go too far, that will be the compensation in your body. Rip the floor apart. Feel that power coming to your pelvis. See if you could pull the vertebra away from itself, each bone, to lengthen in your spine, and then rotate your spine up towards the sky, trying to turn the lower armpit up towards the sky. Rip the floor apart to maintain balance, to maintain power in your pelvis, power in your lower body, power in your hips. Take one more breath. When you come up using your core, rip the floor apart, feel like you're zippering up a tight pair of jeans to activate the core, to bring yourself up slowly, to work on the core as we come out of that posture, moving the block to the other side, moving the chair to the other side or whatever else you need. And then starting with the toes forward, we want to bring that rotation into the hips. Keep your legs straight, lift the front toes, swivel on your heel to come into external rotation, pick the back heel up into that internal rotation. Now rip the floor apart with your feet, take both hands on your legs and get tall, pushing straight arms to get that length into your spine. Turn the back hand up, exhale. Rip the floor apart and then begin your descent. Inhale, push your hips away from you, bending that front hip. Don't let the tushy go back behind you. Don't let the chest go forward in front of you. You're going to the side. and slide down to the side to wherever you could go in that front hip joint. And maybe you get to the point where you could be on the chair or on the block, but notice if you reach down, does your chest go forward to make that happen? And then rip the floor apart, push your pelvis forward, make sure that your pelvis and your head are in the same plane between two sheets of glass with the spine between them. Bending that hip, rip the floor apart. And then we are lengthening the spine and rotating that lower armpit up towards the sky. So always perfecting the posture when you're in it. We don't come and find it. It's not a pose that we're trying to find. It's a posture. It's a joint aligned posture. Creating forces in the joints is how we create stimulation to the bones, stimulation to the muscles. Head can be forward, it could be up, it could be down, whatever feels appropriate. Push away from the block, lengthen your torso, rip the floor apart. Take one more breath here. When we come up, it's with the power of ripping the floor apart, activating your core, and slowly, slowly bringing yourself up and out. Let's come back to that mountain to align our spine, to catch our breath. Closing the eyes if that's appropriate for you. Feel the toes, the ball of the foot, the heels. Push the top thighs back. Gently activate your glutes to pull your tailbone down, correcting your pelvis. Activate the core to activate and push up towards your rib cage. Lower your shoulders, press your hands back. Close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths here. Take one more breath. So we're going to come to the twisted triangle, which is a challenging posture like the side plank. So usually only hold this one for about 30 seconds. I'm going to use the wall so that my pelvis is supported, which will manage the balance aspect. And that will be helpful for being able to stay in this correctly. The bend is at the hip joint, not at the spine. So the bend is at the hips, which is going to really pull on the pelvis and stretch the muscles of the legs. So to come into the twisted triangle, you would bring your chair or your block towards that front foot. So I have my back leg near the wall and my hip is near the wall. So the hip is touching the wall, the back leg is near the wall. My stance is about 2.5 feet apart. So your pelvis is touching, that gives you a little bit of freedom here. Take the hand at the wall, palm is facing the wall, and then reach up. If you don't have a wall, you can do this in the air, but I recommend you try it at a wall because it really is nice for strength when you can manage the balance part of the postures. So you bring your arm forward, and then in order to reach forward, you bend at the hip joint. You're going to feel that stretch coming into that front leg. So you would have a chair here if you needed a chair, and if you have flexibility in your legs, and it requires quite a bit of flexibility to get down into a 90-degree angle in the hips like this. So make sure you do what's appropriate for you. Push away from the block, making sure that you maintain that nice long spine. Hand on the waist, elbow is up, trying to rotate your heart forward towards that front leg. Now push away from the back leg, see if you can get longer in your torso. Then if you'd like, you take the back of the hand on the sacrum. You could stay a little longer in this posture typically when you do it at the wall because balance isn't as pronounced when you have that support of the wall. Really push your back foot, keep your front leg straight, lengthen your torso, and turn your heart forward. Take one more breath. To take the tension out right away, bend the front leg, bring your block with you if you're using a block, bring yourself back up slowly to neutral, and we'll go to the other side. Block goes on the floor, making sure you bend in your hip to do this. not in your spine. So always raising that awareness in how you're moving. Your front foot comes forward and your hip, your back leg, the hip is touching the wall. Toes are pointing forward about 2.5 feet apart. Bring your arm closest to the wall, palm to the wall, and then you're going to inhale. When you're here, reach up and lengthen. When you reach forward, you lengthen your spine to come forward, bending in that front hip joint. And then you take your hand onto either the chair or the block to push away to get length and to rotate your heart forward. So keep adding that rotational force. This is twisted triangle. So adding rotational force, which comes into the spine, into the lumbar spine. Protect your belly by activating your core. Push away from the block to get long and then rotate forward. If you'd like, you could bring the back hand on the sacrum, opening up that front shoulder to get that rotation, the shoulder blade helping to keep your spine safe and to add that rotation. Push away from the back foot, the big toe edge of the back foot. Take one more breath. To come out, you bend the front leg, you bring yourself forward and up, finding the mountain to recalibrate, to realign, and to catch your breath. And then go ahead and open your eyes. Let's come into the side angle, which does a lot of stretching on the inner thighs and adds rotational force, so strong hips, and at the same time strengthening the lumbar spine or the low back. So bring the block, if you like, onto the side you're going to go to. Let's take the legs wide. You take the front toes forward, back toes back. Internal rotation, external rotation in the hips. Take your back hand on your back thigh and then look down at your back foot. You want to activate the foot, push into the pinky toe edge, lift the arch, feel like you're grabbing the floor. The more footwork you do when we do the standing postures, you strengthen the feet, the ankles for fall prevention. Very important part of bone health. Exhale, and as you inhale, slide your back hand down the back leg, push away from the back foot, everything, feel the back part of your body. Doing this so that as you come down, you're loading down into that front knee. The deeper you go here, the farther away your femur bone is from your body, the more pressure you put in the leg bone. So stronger muscles, stronger legs, lower you go. And then bring your arms up here into warrior two, reach forward, bring your hand onto your thigh. Now this may be where you want to stay, is right here. Or you could bring your hand onto a block. Go a little deeper if you can. Rip the floor apart like crazy. Try to feel like you can put moving your low back towards the wall. And then the arm is up in the sky. The block or your leg, you are pushing away. You're not leaning into it. So use it to push away to create strong stimulation in the lower body. Deep breaths. Try to turn your heart, add that rotational force up towards the sky. Use your arm either on the inside leg or on top of the leg. Take one more breath. Rip the floor apart to bring yourself back up to come out. The ripping the floor apart brings a lot of stability into the pelvis for you to then arrange your spine to create that stimulation in the level of the spine. So coming with the legs straight, toes are away, heel is away. Take your back hand down the back leg, right away activating the back leg, arch up, grab the floor with the foot, and then you rip the floor apart, take your back hand down your back leg, exhale, and then you slowly inhale, Slide the hand down the back leg as you bend the front leg. Push the front knee towards the wall, coming as deep as you can in your body. And then bring yourself into the warrior two. From here, reach long and bring your arm on top of your thigh, or you could bring it onto the inner edge of the knee, or you could bring it onto the block, pushing away, going lower if that's available for you. And make sure you rip the floor apart. Your body could be touching the wall if you'd like, to try to turn your heart forward. Turn the lower armpit up towards the sky, long spine. And then always refining when you're in it, not hanging out. Constantly trying to refine the posture. Pinky toe edges push into the floor. Rip the floor apart. Try to point the tailbone down, not back, to neutralize the pelvis. Bending that front knee as deep as you can, pushing that front knee towards the wall, using the arm on the thigh or the inner knee to help. Stretching the adductors. Feel that strong sensation in the inner thigh of that front leg. And then long spine and rotating up towards the sky. Take one more breath. Bring yourself back up to your warrior two, and then all the way out. Standing in mountain Tadasana. Eyes are closed, catch your breath. The heart rate accelerates when we use more muscles or we demand a lot from our muscles. So notice if you are demanding enough, too much, or just right. Let your breath be the gauge for your practice. And then open your eyes. Coming into the chair, let's take our strap. You can do this with or without a strap. Strap on the upper body helps to activate the shoulder girdle. So although we're going to focus a lot on lower body, activating the shoulder girdle can be helpful. If you're able to loop your strap, that'll give you something to push against, using those pushing muscles of the upper body, being about shoulder distance. So when we bring our arms up, we can do that. Take your block between your thighs or your lower legs, you decide, so either up high or down low. The feet are block distance. So the distance of your block, don't have your feet wider and don't have them closer together. Have them the distance of the block, really find that nice joint aligned position. Take your hands inside your strap. We're gonna bend the hip deeply. So to enter the posture, take your shoulders forward, back, up and down, slide the shoulder blades onto your spine, arms are down alongside the front of your body. Exhale. As you inhale, push your tushy back, your arms forward, and load down into your chair posture. Arms up, squeeze the block, activate your core, squeeze your heels into the ground, or push your heels into the ground, squeeze the block. Protect your low back in this. Go deeper if you can, and up with your arms. Do what's appropriate for you. Push out on the strap to help activate those upper body muscles. Keep your mouth closed. Breathe in through your nose, and oxygen is energy, so draw that energy in. Feel like you're cracking 2 raw eggs right where your legs and your hips meet. Crack those raw eggs. Keep your arms straight. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself up. Take your strap and your block. Bring them off to the side. Finding Tadasana. Open your eyes. For Shavasana, we're going to come down, legs up the chair, legs up the wall, something to allow the hips to deeply settle into the hip joints. Setting yourself up, a blanket at the top where your head will go. Your body will be near the wall. So do what's appropriate for you, get what you need. So if you are going to do the legs up the wall, I find it easier to begin with one buttock up against the wall and then using your hands to push yourself towards the wall as you lower down onto your forearms, then down onto your body, and then bring your legs up. The goal is not to be touching the wall with your tushy. For some bodies, that's okay, but not for all. And if you feel a lot of tension behind your thighs, elevating your pelvis with a bolster may be helpful. Bring your arms out to the sides. Let your feet deeply sink into the legs, into the ankles, into the knees, into the hips. Let the entire leg on each side sink deeply. And let your pelvis settle. Arms to the side, mouth closed. Stay connected to your breath in your Shavasana. Gently begin to deepen your breath. And start to bring movement into your fingers, toes, hands, feet, legs, and arms. Then drawing your knees into your chest, rocking side to side. Take your legs back up the wall or up into the air. Take your legs wide, stretching the adductors, the inner thigh muscles, relaxing the pelvis. Let your body relax in this position.
Holding onto the sides of the legs if you need. And then bending your knees deeply into the happy baby. Knees come towards the armpits. If you're able to reach up and hold on to your feet and keep them wide, you could try that. Make sure your knees are very close to your armpits, and then draw your legs back towards the wall behind you, stretching the low back, stretching the pelvis, taking tension out of what may have happened today during the practice. And then bring your knees to your chest, coming onto your side. Cradle your head in your hand. Then take your hand on the ground. You're going to push yourself up, bringing yourself all the way up. We'll close the practice with sound. So come into a seated or a kneeling position. Bring your hands together at your heart to your hands. Pressing your hands towards the heart so you could lift and lengthen your spine, lengthen the back neck. Let's close with sound, a gentle humming sound. Exhale. Inhale. Bringing your hand to your forehead, we bow in gratitude. Namaste. Anything and everything you can do for your body, for your bones, is important and necessary for healthy aging. And if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, to strengthen, lengthen, maintain the areas that are important for fracture prevention, injury prevention, to keep you strong and healthy and mobile as you age. Shorter practice, longer practice, 1 posture, 5 postures, whatever it is, do something every single day for your body, your muscles, your bones, your balance. Okay, so thank you for joining me on my very first ever live, where I just did it like this. So I know some of you are here. Are you from my class that didn't get to happen? I'd love to hear if you are from that. If you're able to chat, let me know that you're here. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. See that? Let me see if this will happen too. Sometimes this one happens. Oh, there, see the hearts? Give me some love if you like this. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you for joining me, and I'd love to hear from you.